harming other people and putting them at that kind of risk. I just can't do it. I don't know about you.
No, I totally agree with you. It's a weapon that it is like a weapon. I mean, I see it almost like a war. It is a war in that kind of way, but instead of having a visible weapon, such as a gun or a, I don't know, whatever else, it's still a weapon. It's still a war against a that not we can't see. So I could never understand the mentality of anybody deliberately harming another person when they've done nothing to them. And I think the same kind of thing happened when HIV was first kind of we were aware of it, because people were doing similar things, and in fact impregnating others. And I can't get my head around anything but like that. It's too awful to just even consider. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. It's
just crazy.
I know.
Oh my God, come on.
It's very upsetting and very distressing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, maybe it's a message for everybody. Just, they're not old enough to know what happened 60 and 70 years ago. No. They just have no connection to the fact that our 4 fathers and 4 daughters and 4 women and 4 mothers, trust me, without the efforts they made that many years ago in a different kind of war, none of us would be here today.
Exactly.
And I don't think they have any idea or any connection to that truth, that reality. So there's absolutely, they're vacant. It's absolutely vacant of the truth of why they're even here and how they got here. And I think that's sad. It's really kind of a sad world right now that we live in, and to see those youth behave in those manners. And there is no reason and justification for it, but they'll tell you there is. I don't know what it is, and I don't want to know, but
no.
Anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that tangent, but it was in the news yesterday, and I went,
right, yeah.
Sorry, I got to talk about it. I just have to. I have to talk about that, because it's just, to me, that to me is more dangerous, and it's all over. All over England. I don't know if it's necessarily all over America. There's a lot of it in America. I think right now there's not very much of it in Italy. There, check that one out. They got a real hardcore lesson there. There's some of it in different countries, but I think there's a lot less of it in other countries when they've experienced the devastation and the hurt and the pain from all the loss that they're experiencing currently. And I don't think England has experienced it as much yet, and they will. There. Sad to say.
And I think one of the things that we have been very lucky in this country, because we don't suffer extreme national disasters. We don't get tsunamis. We don't get huge earthquakes. We do get flooding, but not extensive. I mean, it is in pockets, and I feel sad for those people. I'm not dismissing that, but we don't get major stuff going on. So we don't have to cope with those kinds of things. We don't have wars in this country. We haven't for 70 years in this country.
Yeah.
So we're kind of lulled into a sense of security in some degree. Yes, we have our issues. We've got the homeless, we've got the mentally sick, we've got physically sick, we've got all of that. But as far as real huge disasters, we're pretty fortunate.
Yeah.
So people have no concept of what it could be like.
That's right.
Go through that. I think everyone's just going, oh, well, it just means I can't have my favorite coffee. I can't eat out. They're not actually, have no perception of the reality, because we've never been there. someone's always sorted it out.
Yeah.
National Health Service, and generally that takes care of things. We have, you know, all right, people still get sick, people still die, you know, that's the reality of life. We have law and order in this country.
Yeah.
So we're not in fear of our lives. You know, we don't live with that constant kind of worry. I remember last time I visited my friends in Nepal, and it was several years ago. I think it was a time when they'd had earthquakes, and they have an emergency kit in their house, metal container that is there in case, including tent and first aid and some food, etc. Now, living with that in your premises constantly is a reminder.
Yeah.
You never had that.
No.
You know, so I think people just don't get it.
Yeah. I said this. I said this last night to Catherine, and I of course don't want it to happen.
No.
But I think that inevitably it will repeat itself, and that is another invasion of some sort will occur, because you've got these kind of thinkings and these behaviors about other people and people in general. That's when they will repeat themselves. And I hate to say that, but maybe it'll be another 20, 30 years before it even surfaces, and I might not even be here, which would be fine with me. But the point is, if they keep going along those lines without knowing how to interact with each other, how to be respectful, how to care,
Yeah.
or that it's even important that you know how. I don't think they even think that it's important. I think they think a lot of times what's important is what's right in front of them, their eyes and their ears, their mouth, taste, and their senses are so programmed to instant gratification that I don't think they're even aware of others.
No.
They're aware of their own senses. And as long as they get what they want and they feel good and they like what they see, and it stimulates them in their frontal lobe, then that's all that matters. And if they're not getting that, there's a temper tantrum, there's anger, there's frustration, there's everybody's wrong, this country's terrible, on and on and on it goes. The blame and the justification for their behavior, on and on. And there might have to be awakening, another kind of an awakening. And I told Catherine that last night. I says, I don't want to see that happen, but if they keep going down that path, it's inevitable. It will happen on its own.
Yeah, and some of that is part of the brain development, because the prefrontal cortex, the brain hasn't developed.
No.
They're in their late 20s, early 30s. So that's why they're so self-focused.
Yeah.
And a lot of the neurons, which is the brain parts, that they're pruned during adolescence, and that's why they're prone to kind of temper tantrums and not understanding, and it's not fair, and that self-absorption. All those neurons, they're being pruned. The ones that were developed all through their lifetime up until that point, which are needed, suddenly the brain goes, okay, we don't need that one anymore. We cut it out, we cut that one out. So a huge load of stuff is going on in the brain.
Yeah.
So that's why they're all over the place. They can't think as we do. They can't understand. They do get frustrated simply because of that. But because people don't understand it, I'm not excusing the behavior at all. I think everyone needs boundaries, especially youngsters, but they have no fear. They don't understand it. They can't, it's not there in there, you know, it's not figured out yet.
And who do you deal with? You deal with the mothers of these issues.
Yeah, I do. Mothers,
they're pulling their hair out. They're saying, hey, I got this kid that does this, and the moms they're beside themselves. They don't even know how to interact with that.
No.
It's amazing.
No. It is, and I think it's something about having an understanding that your teenager is going through that, not saying that you excuse them, I don't believe that, but actually there are some things that I think, and you know, the two couples I worked with recently, they've got teenagers in it, but their room is such a mess. I said, look, that can come into their, even into their brain. It's not, you know, allow them their own territory, as long as it stays behind that door,
Yeah.
then fine. Let them, because pick your arguments.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're constantly nagging them, you're constantly moaning with them, you're constantly having those battles with them, and there is no point.
No.
And equally,
It's a waste of time.
it's a waste of time. Yeah.
Their bedroom is a waste of your time. That's what
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's their bedroom. If you don't want to look at it, like you said, shut the door.
Exactly. I used to go in occasionally with mine and say, do you know, let's have a clear up, because I would like to know whether we've had burglars or not. Because if the house is a mess, how would you know? But I mean, that was just periodically. I didn't do it constantly. If it was in the rest of the house, then I would put my foot down and say, hey, no, just put it away. That's not allowed. And it's the same with keeping that conversation open. You know, the couple that came to me and said, well, you know, because, okay, I'll tell you about him. The way he behaved, his survival system, when he felt hurt, he would go back into his man cave. And he would not speak to anybody in the family for maybe several days.
Wow.
So everybody,
depression.
Yeah, everybody else was feeling, what have I done wrong? How are we going to cope with this? And I just looked at him one day. We've been working together for a while. And I said, I just wonder how that, I understand how you're feeling, but I just wonder the effect that has on your children and your wife. And he looked at me completely astonished. I said, because you're punishing everybody because you are upset.
Yeah.
His face dropped. And then we talked some more. And I said, you know, my mother, she would have got a gold medal in sulking. She really would have done. The longest I counted as a child that she didn't speak was 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting at her feet as a young teenager, just sobbing, please tell me what I've done wrong. Please speak to me, Mummy. And she wouldn't. That left me feeling very uncertain in my life. I always spent a long time wondering what I'd done wrong, how I'd upset people. It left me with that child brain.
Yeah.
Also, I'm really bad with long silences because it triggers me.
Yeah.
And when I told him that, and he said, oh my God, I never knew that. Then you need to sit down with your family and tell them what is going on. Because once they, you need to work on yourself, but once they begin to understand that it's not their fault and that there's nothing about you in it, you know, them, it's your stuff, you need to have that open conversation with them.
Yeah.
He was very reticent to do that. But I said, you know what? It's not fair to punish your family because you are struggling.
Did he get it?
He did get it. He did get it.
Good. That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Yeah, because people learn that behavior when they're little.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they learn that. I learned it. I learned that behavior. I learned how to pout and sulk and feel sorry for myself when I was 8 and 9 years old.
Yeah.
You know, and then I used it throughout my life, quite frankly. I mean, because it's how I got my needs met. It's what I saw people would react to me, and maybe not always in a positive way, but at least I got their attention, you know.
Yeah.
Before, I didn't have any attention, and that was part of the reason why I felt the sulking and the pouting and the feeling sorry for myself happened in the first place, because I didn't get, people weren't listening to me at the time when I was little, and they didn't think, and I didn't feel valid, you know, as a human being when I was young. So pouting and sulking and feeling sorry for myself. And even, quite frankly, I think a lot of times that could even lead to depression.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
I think it brings up an awful lot of stuff. And I think people learn this survival system, they learn different ways. My mother, not only could she sulk, but, and I don't mean to say that she brought asthma attacks on herself, because she used to have severe asthma attacks, but it was her survival system. Unconsciously, because she could control everybody else's behavior around her in case she had an asthma attack.
yeah,
I've known people that will cry because you won't continue, you won't talk to them, you won't upset them because they might cry. People use anger. It's amazing the different types of survival systems or defenses, whichever you look at it, the different ways that people use these unconsciously.
yep.
You start bringing it into the conversation, you know, and you say, so what do you do? How's your survival system? What is it? You know, get to know them. Are they working in your best interest all the time?
Good questions, huh?
Yeah.
You got good questions. I think we should have our listeners actually try and answer them in the messages.
Yeah.
You know, those are very good questions. And I think you can write down your answers or have your questions in the comment section below on the video, and if we post this on Facebook, you can do the same thing on Facebook.
Yeah.
Because we're going to start, you and I are going to continue to create this dialogue. And then and a lot of times we want, I know you're great because you're so organized and you like to know exactly what you want to talk about. And I'm the opposite. I don't know if you know that.
I figured that one out.
I'm the opposite. I'm like going, I don't want to know what I'm going to talk about because I just let it come out of me when we're in the moment. I'm more of an in the moment kind of person.
Yes.
And you're more structured, which is really cool because those two dynamics working together, you get some really cool dialogue out of that. I mean, so the structure that you're bringing up, I think is important for the show.
Yeah.
And going forward for people to interact, because that's what we want, isn't it? Yeah. We want people to interact with us, with their questions, their thoughts, and their ideas, which helps us and helps them. So, and I'm kind of like, I don't have the answers, and I'm kind of like the guy that I don't have a structure. I'm just freewheeling. I'm an abstract thinking kind of guy. Look at me. All my paintings are abstract. My face is abstract. Everything about me is very abstract. And
I don't think there's any right or wrong way at all. Oh. Absolutely not. And I think, you know, that I often feel that, yeah, with clients, and there's, you know, sometimes they say, well, I want you to resolve this. I want a structure. And I say, that doesn't work. I'm sorry. But, you know, we might start talking about one subject, but they will say one word, one sentence, and off we meander onto another little pathway. And we've had all kinds of discoveries. And I think that is the magic of what we do, because we go with what somebody wants, what they need. And you can't say, somebody actually said to me, I want you to give me a solution. And I said, oh, that's not my job.
That's funny.
I can't give you a solution. You have to find your own solution. All I can do is guide you and help you in that way.
Well, I've had times where people have said that same thing to me, and I hit them right between the eyes. It's usually about a problem they've got with their ex. Their ex. Oh, I hate him. Oh, I hate that guy. Oh, he does this, and this, and then. I said, well, why do you choose to be connected to him? I'm not connected to him. I says, yes, you are. You're connected to him in hate. And they go, well, he is awful. I said, if you don't want him in your life anymore, I said, you love him and then let him go. I said, then he's gone. And I said, then you're not going to tell me about all the hate you have for him and all the disdain and the horrible things, because if you keep doing that, all you're telling me is that you're connected. You're connected to this individual that you don't want to be connected to. And they go, oh, you mean I got to love them first and then leave them? And I said, yeah, you should have done that years ago. And then you wouldn't be hating them. And they go, and I wouldn't have to listen to you tell me about your hate. And they go, oh, okay. No, that's the last I hear from them, because but it's not a negative. They get it. They get the idea that
Yes.
as long as you're connected in that way, you're connected. It's still a connection. Even hating someone for their past is a connection to them. Absolutely. In that way. And they don't get it. So I'm going to say to you this, we've got an hour in already. And so what I want to say to you is, let's wrap this one up.
Yeah.
And let's say to the listeners, please tell us what's troubling you. Tell us what you want to hear us talk about. Tell us what's going on in your life that you can't seem to understand and you want it to be different or better. Is that a good way to put it? Or you put it in your words, because you're concise.
No, I think you're right. I think people will have concerns. They'll have worries in their lives. They will have things that are going on for them. They just can't seem to unravel. And it doesn't matter how big it is, how small it is. The size isn't the problem. And it's not about, well, other people have more problems than I do.
No.
It isn't about that, because those problems aren't affecting you in your life. We have to deal with what's going on for us in our lives. If we can't sort ourselves out, we can't help anybody else anyway. So the fact that there are tragedies in the rest of the world, or other people have got bigger problems, isn't helpful, because we're not in a position to help or be there for anyone else.
Right.
It doesn't matter how small, how big, whatever the size it is. Size doesn't matter. In this case, size doesn't matter. Just as if it's bothering you, sometimes it's good to know you're not the only one.
That's right. Okay, cool.
So let's finish up.
That's a good show, I think, today. Yeah. You did a good job.
Thank you.
And make sure on the YouTube channel, you hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications when we upload this into the YouTube channel. And when we cross post this on Facebook and other social media, send us a message and let us know what your thoughts are. And we're going to have another show in, who knows, maybe another week. Yeah. Whenever you're ready, we'll do it again.
Absolutely. Yeah, lovely.
Work, Wendy.